Hello, and welcome to My Little Book Love podcast. I'm your host, Miko Books, and today we have a very special guest on here with us. Lucia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, it's so nice to be here. Thank you so much, Michaela, for inviting me on your lovely podcast. So, my name is Lucia Damisa. I'm a fantasy author I'm a fantasy author and I'm debuting with my fantasy book, A Desert of Bleeding Sand, which is coming out with Dark Press in March 2025. And yeah, I guess that's the basic intro.
That's so exciting. So, this will be your first book.
Yes.
Okay. Well, tell us about that. How are you feeling? And you still have a little bit of a wait before you release. Are you anxious leading up to the release? Are you excited?
I'm excited. I'm very, very excited because this is something I've been dreaming of for about 3 years now. So to have it finally happen, like it's just so exciting. I'm also nervous because, I feel like now I'm in this bubble where it's like, we are preparing, we are editing, we are doing everything we can to make the book like loved. So like there's this anticipation of like, oh, people are going to love it, but then like not everybody can love it. So there's just that nerves of like the reception is going to get. And then I'm also pretty impatient because I know so many people are like, oh, debut year, it's always like it seems so far and then it seems so close. But I don't feel like it feels close at all. I'm like, man, March 2025 is so far away. Like I want people to start reading my story ASAP. So yeah, those are the feelings I have towards debut. And I'm also so grateful and so thankful because this was something I was really working hard towards and hoping for. So to have it finally, happening, like I'm just so thankful. So yeah.
Yes. So, do you have any beta readers yet? Do you have any ARC readers? Do people have it in their hands yet?
Oh, okay. Like it's not yet in the hands of readers, but in hands of like my editor, my friends, maybe some of my friends who haven't yet read this particular manuscript. So yeah. But I have like an ARC team that's waiting. And according to what I heard from my editor, hopefully by December we'll be ready to send out ARCs. So right now it's not yet, out for beta reading.
Yes. That is so cool though. It's so exciting. And like you said, March seems like it's far, but then it seems close. And I can't even imagine how you're feeling right now. But
Yeah.
okay, so can you give the readers a little bit of a short summary or an idea of what your book will be about?
Okay, yeah. So A Desert of Bleeding Sand follows Zer and Dayton. They are two rivals from different military academies sent on a mission from opposing sides. So it's like they are both sent on this same mission, but from by different, sponsors. And then they both have like, okay, for example, it's like I don't want to spoil it. So I'll just say, okay, it's like go over here and do this, like do this same thing, but it has different, end results. So that actually sets them on opposite side because even though, okay, yes, we both want to achieve this thing, when we both like find it or reach that level, like we both have different directions to go from there. So it sets them on like this very brutal rivalry because both of them are very driven people. They are very, like they know what they want. They want to impress their sponsors. They want to impress their schools and all of that. So it sets them on this like rival, opposing sides rather. And then their mission has to do with mercenaries because mercenaries are abducting students from academies, and Zera and Dayton are sent to the magical Sahara Desert Palace to find the traitor sponsoring these mercenaries before more students are taken and the kingdom is overcome. So it is a YA crossover fantasy. It's historical fantasy, epic fantasy, romantic fantasy, and it has tropes of rivals to lovers, slow burn, found family, a sentient desert palace, high stakes, and more. And I generally pitch it as Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but in a magical Sahara desert palace. So yeah, that's what my book is about.
Oh, that sounds so exciting. Okay, so we have a YA fantasy crossover and kind of a Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You said they're rivals. It sounds so good. So, how did this story come to you? How long has it been sitting with you?
Okay. So it came to me in 2022. But at first, it was because I read this marvelous book, Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. And I
Mm-hmm.
just adored the rivals to lovers vibes because I read a ton of romance and like I just got into reading fantasy around that time. So I was absolutely floored by the rivals to lovers. Like it's like these two people are attracted to each other. And what is keeping them from, coming together is actually like tangible, is something you understand. Like no matter what, no matter how they feel, they can't, cross that barrier. So when I saw that, I was just mind blown, and I was like, man, I want like to recreate this kind of dynamics. So I had that like rivals to lovers, but it was like I needed a story, I needed a plot, I needed like world building and all of that. So I let it sit at the back of my mind, and it was like because sometimes I let ideas sit and after a while they, fade away. They don't like have that much weight. But this one remained. And then in 2022, like there was like the political election for the next president. And that was just like a very tense time. And what I mentioned about abducting students from school, it actually happened. Like because I'm from Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was happening that, bandits will go to schools and abduct like students. And it was just such a very terrible, tense time. And it was like I needed the means of expression because everybody was devastated, everybody was dismayed. Like I won't go too much in it because the story explores more about these mercenaries and why they were taking those students. So I won't really go into it yet. But it was just this terrible thing and I needed to express myself. And I'm not much of a talker. I'm more of a writer. So it was like, it just came to me. I was like, what if we could do something? What if we could like, because in the book it's like a magical desert palace. But like, what if we, the youths, could, go to our president's house and, find out more, do our research, try to like stop this horrible thing that's happening to these, students that are being abducted. Because even before this, like years ago, in I think 2014, there was the Bring Back Our Girls movement, which was the first time this thing ever happened of bandits going to school to kidnap over 100 girls from their schools. So it was like, at that time, I was kind of detached from this because I was much younger. But then this time
Mm-hmm.
around, it was like this, they were taking students, youths, teenagers, toddlers, and I connected so much more to the youths because I was like, these are my age, because they went to like universities and they, kidnapped like university students and we would just hear horrible news about what's happening to them. So I felt it so personally. Like I remember there was this day in my house, I just heard this news and I just started crying because like this could be me, this could be my friends, this could be my
Yeah.
brothers. So yeah, so writing this book gave me the outlet for that. So it was like I now took this rivals to lovers idea that I had, and then I brought it and I was like, okay, these two people are students and they belong to the schools where these mercenaries are going to abduct students, and they are not just going to be in their house, because we were tweeting, we were protesting, nothing, we were not being heard at all. So I was like, they aren't just going to sit down, feeling helpless. They are going to go to the head of presidency, to the head of rulership, and try to, save their students, try to save their kingdom from like these mercenaries and everything. So yeah, those were the inspirations for A Desert of Bleeding Sand.
Yes. So it
Yeah,
sounds like you took something very terrifying and terrible and you used it to kind of shape part of your writing and what was
yeah.
happening. That's very amazing. That's a great way to cope too and to, kind of get your emotions out and yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Um,
Thank
what
you.
what has been the most difficult part of this journey for you so far?
The most difficult part is trying to get published. Like
Yes.
writing comes very easily to me. I enjoy it. I love it. It's like my favorite thing to do. And then after, you have this like really amazing idea and, you do your research because, the writing journey or the publication journey is slightly competitive, but competitive in the fact that like everyone wants to get an agent, everyone wants to get a publisher, and there are only so many. So, you have to try to put your foot, like your best foot out there. And for me, it was like I tried three different books that didn't make it. And like for each of those books is like total heartbreak. Like when you write this book, it doesn't maybe, you get some great response. Oh, I love this, but this was good. But so imagine having to deal with that three times. And for these three books, it was like I queried up to 100 agents. Okay, let me say it was
Oh,
like 50, 80, 100. So let me say that is getting like over 200 rejections. So
Oh,
that is the toughest part. Like so many writers, like you literally see some writers, they start off so excited, tweeting about like their story and all of that, and then they enter the query trenches, and then after like the 50th rejection, they're like, I'm out, like I can't do this anymore. So that rejection part for me, and the long because you are getting rejected, time is passing, months, years, and all of that. So yeah, those were the hardest parts of the journey for me.
yes. So I guess that feeling of rejection is something you put your heart into this book, and you just had to be told again and again, like, it's good, but we're just not interested. That's so difficult. So,
Yeah, although with this book, it was actually better than the other ones because it was like everybody, all the agents, they all saw something in the story. So actually,
yes.
at the time when I was creating it, it wasn't yet ready. Like it was just, it needed, how I put it, it had like way too much world building. So it
Hmm.
needed to be streamlined. So everyone, because most times agents just send like this, that's this repeated message like, oh, sorry, this wasn't for me. Thank you for sending me this. That's what they normally send. And like getting a personalized like response is like a big deal for writers. So I actually got a bunch of personalized rejection and we're like, oh, there's something here and like, it's not there yet. Like do this and this and like, so I kept getting like helpful feedbacks and helpful feedbacks. And then eventually I met these agents who like took her time and just listed out, push this back, push this back, considering removing this. And like everything was just exactly what I needed. So the moment I imputed that feedback, I just started getting offers from agents, like offers to represent me and, all of that. And even shortly after that, because before I got an agent, I sent my books to an editor like a long shot attempt. And to my surprise, like I thought the message will never be read. But to my surprise, she was like, oh, sure, like even though you don't have an agent, like I want to see it. And then I sent it to her and then she read it and she was like, you need an agent. Like I love this book, like get an agent, like and all of that. So that was also part of what fast tracked the agent's, journey. So the rejections for this book was never, so it wasn't as painful as the other ones. Because those other ones, as you said, was like, yeah, it's nice, but as in, but this one was just like, oh, you have something really good here, but you need to work on it a bit more. And yeah, so that made this process a bit less painful.
Yes. So that's so nice. So there were people along the way that kind of gave you feedback, and they were like, you could do this and this, but then someone actually gave you multiple things that you could fix. And then once you did that, that's so awesome.
Yeah,
It's very competitive. And, for someone to get that time and that feedback is so important and so helpful.
yeah,
So that's amazing. And I'm so
yeah.
excited for your release. You said you had
You
wrote how many books will you have in this series?
right now there are five. It's a five book series. Yeah,
Wow. Okay. So I
yeah.
know, so the first one's coming out this March. Do you
March.
think so it's a 5 book series? That is amazing. Well, I don't know. Okay, let's focus on the first one. I'm getting ahead of myself asking about the rest. But how far do you have written? Like, are you already finished? Have you written the whole series?
I just finished writing book 4 and sent
Oh,
it to
that's amazing.
publish. So yeah, like I'm about to start writing book 5, but I'm not emotionally ready. Like I can't even like say I'm like if you look at it, I've written 5 books. I should be ready to say goodbye, but I'm just going to be devastated when I write that fifth book. So, I'm just trying to postpone it and everything. But yeah, I just finished the fourth one and sent it to my editor.
That is amazing. Congratulations. So you just
Thank
finished the fourth, and that's a huge accomplishment too. That's
you.
awesome. Okay. So you're still writing, you're still working on these. Okay. So what's next? I mean, you're almost finished with this series. Do you have other projects you're working on? Are there things, do you think you'll focus on this one for a while, or are you already thinking ahead?
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking ahead. Although I don't know if the word to use is thinking ahead because I wrote when I first started on this publication part, I wrote this other series that I really love, and I was like, I'm not going to query this book because I don't want this book to be rejected. I'm going to try to get published with something else. And then when it happens, then this other one will come in. So after that one, I wrote like I wrote it and I set it aside. And then I wrote two other books that, the first one got me an agent, but didn't get me a publisher. The other one didn't, then my agent and I parted ways. And so I started querying again, and the other one didn't get me, agents. So I now wrote this one. But I feel like this one and the first one that I didn't query are the ones that I really, put my heart and soul into. And I feel like that
Mhm.
kind of shows in the stories. So yeah, I have that one that I still, intend to publish. So it's like I already have um, you know, I don't know which how to explain it, but I already have that future, book already waiting. And yeah, other than that, like I always have ideas and I tend to like expand my books. So other than what I wrote with that first fantasy book, I have plans to, write more books in the series, write more in the world. And for A Desert of Bleeding Sand, who knows, like ideas just keep popping up. So who knows how it go from there. So yeah.
So that's exciting. So we'll definitely be seeing more from you in the
Yeah.
future as well. I mean, you still have this whole release coming up, so you're just getting started. That's
Yeah.
that's an exciting feeling. But what advice would you have for people that are in the same place as you, I guess? What advice would you have for other people that are trying to become authors or, trying to figure out where to go?
Yeah. So my first advice is to be your biggest cheerleader, because you would have, like, it's just like, other than you trying to get published, like when your book is out, you would have readers that love them, you have readers that like hate them. So like trying to get published, you also need to know that not every rejection means that your book is bad, or not even, like, they might not even mean that your book isn't there yet, that your book might be solid, but it's just not for somebody. So you have to like go in with that mindset and be ready to cheer yourself up, be ready to like believe that, okay, I did my best. I wrote the best book I could. I sent it to my beta readers. I took their feedback. If possible, if you even have like the finances, you can send it to an editor and, just put your best work out there, and then have faith, have trust in what you have written, and just, be your biggest fan. Like, even though maybe you get a response saying, oh, nobody really says that, but I hated this book or something. Like, you should be able to be like, no, this book came from my heart, and I got feedback from people that said they love it. So like that is just very, very important. Like, that's why some people would probably send out 10 queries and be like, oh, I got rejections for 10 queries. I'm not going any further, because they're not really, they don't have that much confidence in their story. They're not like their biggest cheerleaders. They're letting an external voice tell them what to think about themselves and about their books. So you just need to brace yourself and be like, I'm going to have my back. I'm going to be like my biggest cheerleader for everything. And also get a support system. Like, this is very, very important. Like, as much as, I was determined to be my own cheerleader, I don't think I would have, made it this far without like my siblings and one of my friends. Because there are moments where, you try your best to cheer yourself up, but there are just these moments where you are like, man, like, 3 books, 3 years, like, is it just time to give up already and all of that? And then my sister would like never, she'd be like, no, like, this is your part. Like, she's like, I've read, like, if you heard when my sister boosts me up in those moments, and I know that, she's not just trying to make me feel better. She just like, I've read this book. I love it. I know people are going to love it. Like, you've been writing, and my younger brother too, you'll be like, you've been writing before I was even born. And I was like, so yeah, I know this is like your part and everything. And then my mom, my dad, like they can be worried then before, like, I got the news of like my book deal. They could be worried and like, oh my God, like time is going by and everything. But they would never sit me down and be like, then like, yeah, this is time for you to give up. They always be like, when they see me down, they will become like the biggest, like, they won't even mention anything of like, are you sure you shouldn't try something else? They'll just be like, no, like, you're so dedicated to this and all of that. So you need those support system. Then one of my friends too, Maddie, like, I would literally, like, how is the summer always in the midnight? I would just message her in the midnight and I'll be like, Maddie, I'm getting really discouraged and all of that. And she too, she'll be like, no, like, so you absolutely need that. I blog. So I usually talk about my experiences, and I mentioned like a few times about like my support system. And I've seen so many other people tell me, oh, you're so lucky. to have a support system like this, that they don't really have anyone who's encouraging them. So I feel like even before you begin, like try to find that support system, whether it's in the right, if maybe you don't have your family to support you, you can go into the writing community, make friends, join group chats where you know they are very positive and all of that. So those are like two very important things you need, like confidence in yourself and a support system.
That is very great advice. So, you get a lot of your support from your family, your friends, your siblings. It is so special to have that and to have,
Yeah.
like you said, your parents would never set you down and be like, you need to figure something else out. That's so nice that you have that support. And I'm sure it's helped you get to where you are and that confidence in yourself and your work as well. So that's great advice. Thank you so much for sharing. Um,
Thank you.
what is your go-to book rec? Like, what do you like to read and what do you recommend to other people?
All right. So what I like to read are actually old books because I came into reading like in 2019. So
Mm-hmm.
pretty late. But the moment I discovered, because like that was when I finished school. So the moment I discovered, like I read my first fiction, I fell in love with it. So I feel like there are still a ton of books from like the 2000s that I haven't yet read. That like that I just keep going like back to that time because I find it very comforting and very cozy and to go back to that time when they used blackberries and those kind of
Yes.
yeah, those are what I usually read. So I wouldn't really recommend, like, I wouldn't really bring my Rex from there because, they are so old. So I feel like
Yeah.
if I want to recommend a book, the first one I would recommend is Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Like me, she's also a Nigerian author, but like she's so big now. And like I first read her book when I was in secondary school. Like we had to read it for our course. And like that was one of the first like school books I read that I didn't read it just to pass the exam, but I really love the
Mm-hmm.
story. So I really recommend Purple Hibiscus. Like it gives insight into the Nigerian culture and like it's just so beautiful and like full of drama and everything. And then I would definitely recommend Dance of Thieves because it really inspired me to write my own story. And then anything by Sabata here. Like
Oh yeah.
I love her writing. I love listening to her talk. Like she's just so smart and like I definitely so those are like three book recs I have.
Oh, I love that. Okay, that's great. And um, readers or authors are readers, first. So I always love hearing book recs from authors because seeing what's inspired you and what you like to read. When you're writing, do you get to do a lot of reading or do uh, you read a lot while you write?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know how to explain how much. I feel like sometimes when you're writing fantasy, especially like a broad scope fantasy, there are so many elements like to focus on. Some can just take your entire like time and mind. And I feel like reading while writing reminds me of maybe, oh, you're neglecting the side character. Oh, maybe you aren't like building, you aren't, describing the setting well enough. Oh, you have maybe this book has like this really mouthy 5-year old. And maybe I have like a 4-year old in my book that has been quiet all along. And I'm like, why is he quiet? If this mouthy 5-year old, like if this 5-year old in this book can be so mouthy, then my 4-year old. So I feel like reading while writing, it can be anything. I could be writing like my fantasy, my high fantasy books and be reading a mystery or be reading like a rom-com. And there will just be something that would, help me to not be too focused on one aspect of writing. So other than just, reading to unwind and enjoy the book, that's also one reason why I try to read while writing because it, helps me find that writing balance. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you can draw inspiration and from the characters and it reminds you to kind of sharpen some of your own things. Like you said, the
Yeah.
side
That,
characters. Okay. That's very
yeah.
interesting. I asked you earlier what the most difficult part of this journey has been, but I didn't ask you what I guess the highlight has been so far. So what would you say have been the best parts of this journey so far?
The best part of the journey so far is being celebrated. Like when you announce your book deal, like and you have so many people come and be like, congratulations. And when you have your cover reveal, because these are things you daydream about. Like, while you're still writing the book, while you're still trying to get an agent, while you're still trying to get a publisher, you're just like, oh, I can't wait to get to these milestones. And then when you get there and you have so many people, like, it's just like saying congratulations for everything, like not just the cover review, not just the book deal, but for like persevering, for writing the book and all of that. So like that's absolutely the highlights. And one of the best moments were when I got my agent and then when I got like my book deal. Like those were one of like the best moments of my, writer and author life. So yeah.
So I guess along the way you deal with a lot of rejection and not criticism, constructive criticism, what you can change. But also, like you said, you're at the point now where you're getting to the fun parts, the congratulations, and you've
Yeah.
persevered through it and you made it through, and that's awesome. That's so
Yeah.
good to hear too. And it almost makes all of the bad parts of it worth it.
Exactly. Because it wouldn't be so amazing if you didn't have to go through all that rejections. Like if it was like, oh, at your first try, you got it, you'll be happy. But there's just more, weight behind it when you have to like try and persevere and you finally get that yes. Like it makes everything so much more exciting and joyful. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So, yeah, finally, I mean, you go through all that, you finally get the yes, and it makes it even better for you because you've been through all of that. But I do
Yeah.
want to ask you, how do you plan to celebrate your release? Do you have like, is there anything in mind that you're going to do to celebrate in March when this comes out?
Yeah, I'm still planning and thinking about it because I feel like if I was in America or in the UK or in Canada, I feel like, I could, have bookish friends around and all of that. But over here in Nigeria, we don't have the biggest readers, but I have a lot of friends that I've been trying to, get published. I'm thinking of, throwing a party, like, because my mom is a baker, so maybe having her bake a cake with like my book cover on the top of it and going somewhere because I know I have to celebrate. Like sure, I'm an introvert, I'm a homebody and all of that, but some things just have to be celebrated and this is one of them. So yeah, I'm definitely going to like have a party to celebrate the occasion.
Yes, that's so exciting. That does make me wonder. I know you said there's not a lot of readers over there. Like if you were somewhere else, it'd be easier to have, there'd probably be more bookish friends or events. Do you ever hope to go to any book events? Like do you ever, if it came down to it and you were invited to events, is that something you'd be interested in attending?
Absolutely. Like yeah, that is a dream. That's something I hope to be able to do one day. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that would be amazing. Well, I just wanted to congratulate you on your upcoming release and thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me. Is there anything about yourself that you would like the readers to know? Is there anything you'd like to share?
Okay. First of all, it's like okay, I already mentioned the fact that like I'm a huge reader and that but I feel like okay, I've mentioned this too, but in terms of like writing as a form of expression, like I feel like even though, okay, for example, this Bring Back Our Girls movement and everything that I wrote into book one, there's the whole mercenaries going to school. So I'm like, the next book in the series also has something to do with, tribalism and, Nigeria and all of that. But then as the books go on, I still try to find something very important to me because before now I used to just write for fun. I used to write like I don't think I used to put any piece of myself or my experiences into like my stories. I just like there were always fun ideas to flow with. But then after I wrote this book and I saw how much depth it had because of I took from personal experience, it's now something I always want to do in my books. And then in one of the books of the series, what I took from was the experience of getting so many rejections trying when you're trying to get published because I realized that in some way or another people deal with rejections, people deal with disappointment, people deal with trying so hard to achieve something and it seeming so far out of reach and all of that. So I felt like that is something that would really people would connect with, and I was kind of hesitant to be that vulnerable, but then it was just so beautiful that some of the quotes that I found during that time to, encourage me, I was able to put them into the book. Like some of them actually like made up by myself because like one of the major quotes in the book is like miracles can happen. And it's like sometimes get trying to get published, it really felt like looking for a miracle because you're like there are thousands of authors out there and like maybe like a few hundred agents and like a few dozen publishers. So it literally seemed like a miracle. So one of the posts became miracles can happen. And then like I try to, explore that, like to explore like people, they are sure they are not trying to get published in my book. Like they are not authors trying to get published. But like, I put in these characters that I really, really want something and try to explore that. So that is something that I've been doing and I hope to keep doing to just find something profound that really, shifted my world, shifted my life and try to explore that in books to give them more weight and more meaning and hopefully, try to connect with readers through it. So yes.
That is awesome. So, like you said, that's very vulnerable, but I think that that's a lot, that's something that separates good from great, adding yourself into the book. And I think that that helps it to resonate more with readers. And,
Hope so.
it's vulnerable, but I think that's what we want at the end of the day is to read, to experience new things and to feel something that, I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much.
Well, I'm so glad to have you on the podcast today. I'm so looking forward to your release in March. It's March
27.
27th. Okay, 27th. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm adding that to my calendar. I cannot wait. I know the cover reveal was not long ago, and the cover is beautiful. I
Thank you.
did want to ask, how much of a hand did you have in the cover? Like, did they give you options or choices or?
Yeah, I had a lot of inputs in my cover. And I am just so thankful because I feel when I was, talking to my publisher, like before we signed the contract, that was one of the first questions I asked, like, how much inputs will I have in the. So they gave me this cover form and they asked me to be as detailed as possible. They're like, put, three sample covers of books you like. Then they're like, just write anything. So I was so detailed because, for years I've been fantasizing of what my cover is going to look like. So I had like a bunch of covers in the file where I was like, okay, if I like this cover, I'll save it in this file and I'll like write what I liked about the cover. And then I just like wrote like a huge note. I was like, this person is a cover artist. I don't even know how much of a reader they are. And I'm sending them like, you know, a blog post length of what I want for my cover. But they were even asking for more. Like they were just so very open to my inputs. But I feel like this was so because, when I sent them the samples, they were like, okay, these are something we can roll with. I feel like if maybe the samples I sent them were not really in tune with what they were looking for, I might have gotten a bit like less, inputs. But I had like a lot of input to give, and like the cover artist was very, very accommodating. And funny enough, it was like this was the very first cover she sent to me. And then I was like, okay, I feel we should change this, add these changes, and then she was like, she would, make like a whole new cover. So she made like two other whole new covers for me, but then I was like, okay, this first one is, better and I love it so much. And I'm very happy that, the reception was just so amazing. And yeah, like I had a lot of input. The cover artists, my publishers, they were very, very accommodating. And yeah,
That is so nice. So you got a lot of input and you were able, I mean, so you've put your heart in this cover, in the book, and all of it. So it's so wonderful. I mean, the cover is beautiful. When I saw that, I was blown away. It's so
thank
pretty. But okay, well, we'll wrap things up. I'm so happy that we got to speak today, and I cannot wait for your release March
you.
27th. And we will be hopefully seeing a lot more of you in the future. Thank you so much
I,
for coming on.
thank you so much, Michaela.
Thank you.